It's time for the big bonk gauntlet man who hits the ground, makes it go explode. It's a really good build, and I'm the only... No, that's a lie. Everyone is doing this build. Everyone is... Yeah, it's just the bonk build, but a little bit different. Welcome, it's your friendly neighborhood Badger here, and I'm back for a small build guide on the weapon that is the champion bonk build I will be taking into the Gauntlet League. If you don't know what the Gauntlet League is, go and check out Zizaran's video on it in the description. This big bonker is a staple hardcore solo self-found build by this point of Heist League, but with a couple of interesting uses of heist mechanics, I decided to build it a little different by, well, not equipping a weapon. The bonking build uses Groundslam, then coupled with any steel skill only for the Call of Steel mechanic, stacking impales with the impaler node on the tree, and then pulling those impales out with Call of Steel, dealing very insane single target damage and burst pack damage. Early heists are extremely broken in terms of gearing and early character, and both a Loreweave and Facebreakers can be farmed with a strong degree of certainty. HAVOC also has a video on the Loreweave technique I will be using, which pretty much involves farming the tutorial heist quest for unique Blackheart rings, but the other technique I will be using is just farming level 16 heists by buying out the vendor in Rogue Harbor when I reach that level. All in all, this champion, which can also be built as a gladiator by the way, with much less damage but full block, turned out to be quite the tank and damage dealer when testing. But I won't ramble on here, it's time for the build. Alright, it's time for the gear and links for the Champion Bonk Impale character. Now, as I said, a lot of people are playing this build. There is even guides from people like Zizaran, and I think Steel Mage is playing a similar version of this build as well, so you could definitely go talk to him about the weapon version. But as I said, I'm playing this with Facebreakers, so it is requiring me to actually grind Facebreakers, but again, in the previous section, I did talk about how I'm going to do that and make it, fairly consistent to be able to drop these. But first of all, we're going to start with the gear. We're going to go through it all. You will notice quite a theme in this gear. It's very solo self-found viable because pretty much all of the slots are just life and resistances. It's all you need on a character like this. And then on the rings and amulet, just using essences of contempt to be able to roll physical damage, flat physical damage to attacks on these to boost your damage through the impale, Facebreaker, slams, and everything like that. But let's jump through. From top to bottom, we first start with the shield because we're not wielding a weapon. So the shield is just life and resistances. Make sure to focus on chaos resistance because in a league like Gauntlet, you're going to be taking insane amounts of damage, and chaos is very, very important here. Now, you do also have to notice here that down here, being in the Gauntlet League, you do have to overcap actually about 40% more. So you'll notice I'm actually undercapped here, but this is very, very basic gear that I've chucked on a standard character. So it's very easy to top that off once you do reach maps and everything like that. So don't take that as a negative there. That's actually going to be totally fine. You'll notice as I look through the equipment here, stuff like some of the rings, they've got like no resistances on them, so it's actually very easy to cap. Now the helmet we have here, once again, it's just life, resistances. I'm not going to talk much about that, you know the drill, but that does bring us to the body armor. Now the body armor is a Loreweave that we can use in the early game. It's going to give really, really great damage. It gives about 12.5% damage right now to us, but if we're really struggling on those resistances, this is not needed. You can switch to just a good chest piece with good life and resistances as well. It's not going to hinder you too much. And obviously the gloves is going to be Facebreakers right there. The best in slot item for this type of build. Then we're going to move on to the boots. Once again, you're going to make sure you need that move speed, but life and resistances, once again, that's all you're really looking for. Amulets and rings, as I said, you're just looking to slam essences of contempt. And the things that you're looking for is some intelligence rolls, and then some resistance and life rolls there as well. On all three of these, there's nothing different on all of those right there. And the belt to finish it off with the actual gear. Once again, life and resistances. I don't really have to say much at all, other than all of that. The flasks themselves are fairly important though. There are 3 kind of needed flasks for the build. First of all, you're going to want a Seething Divine Life Flask, which is an instant life flask. And if you can get Staunching on there as well, that's even better. Then you're also going to want a Granite Flask and a Jade Flask. These are going to be really, really strong, coupled with Iron Reflexes to turn your evasion into armor. We now sit with our flasks about 54,000 armor, which is really nice. And then, you know, obviously you could use a Quicksilver to move faster, which is very recommended. Moving fast means you avoid damage, which is really good. And then a Basalt Flask at the end there. Now, you can either use a Basalt Flask or you can use a Silver Flask for Onslaught. It's totally up to you. I prefer to use a Basalt Flask just to give us even more physical damage reduction against those big hits. And your jewel sockets, all you're really looking for is a Rapid Expansion, which you can pick up in Act 5. It is a quest reward item that you can very easily pick up and equip through there. You're just going to make sure that you have 40 strength allocated in the big circle there, as the picture shows. And then the other jewels, you're just looking for, you know, max life and damage, basically. Max life damage, max life damage. Lord of Steel is very important if you can find it, but it's not included in the build because, as I said, it's solo self-found for the Gauntlet League, and you're not guaranteed to drop anything like this Lord of Steel. So I'm just keeping it there. I might even just drag that in right there. That's all the gear. Super easy to follow, super easy to you know, pick up and everything like that, and grind yourself. Even using Blood Aqueducts to be a great place to grind all sorts of gear. The skills themselves for the Groundslam character are fairly straightforward. We're going for flat physical damage, which is you know, pretty easy to achieve with all of the skill gems and Facebreakers that we're using here. So we will start with our main link, which is Groundslam. Now, in order of priority, I'm actually just going to switch this around here because it's not quite sorted right there. So we're going to have a look at Brutality there, and then finishing it off with melee physical damage at the end. So this is pretty much the order of importance. We've got Groundslam linked with Impale, Pulverized Fist of War. That is your 4 link. That is exactly what you want for your 4 link, and Impale is very needed. 5th link is going to be Brutality, and 6th link is going to be melee physical damage. That's pretty much all you're looking for there. We then look at our Aura setup. Now, our Aura setup is going to be Pride, and then it's going to be Flesh and Stone linked with Maim, and then it's going to be Blood and Sand. Now, if instead on the passive skill tree, we'll talk about this a little bit later, if on the passive skill tree you're using First to Strike, Last to Fall instead of Inspirational, you are actually going to be removing Blood and Sand. Lose a little bit of DPS there, but you're getting a lot of survivability through the First to Strike, Last to Fall there. Now, Dread Banner is on a ring at the moment, on an unset ring, but you don't need to worry too much because you can also just put that in your gloves right here with the Poacher's Mark and Splitting Steel setup, which brings me to that setup. Poacher's Mark is actually very, very strong for this build because it gives flat physical damage 2 hits against curse enemies. So you can see here, if I buff this up here to level 20, we get a lot more DPS on a single target there as well. But average damage is kind of more what we're looking at here. Then we're looking for another 4 link, which is basically our Cry setup, which is going to be where a lot of the DPS is coming from. Intimidating Cry and Seismic Cry linked with Second Wind, and Second Wind is also linking with Steel Skin on our left click. You can play around with Steel Skin, Immortal Call, or Molten Shell. It's totally up to you. I might even switch this to Molten Shell myself, because we have quite a lot of armor, and then you also get Vile Molten Shell in there as well, which is probably preference, but during leveling, Steel Skin is better. Now, Seismic Cry and Intimidating Cry are very important to get right in the rotations of getting the most amount of damage you can on bosses. With Intimidating Cry, you want to use Intimidating Cry, attack twice, and then save your final attack for the biggest damage against a boss or something like that. Basically to give even more physical damage to all of the enemies that you hit. Sorry, that's Seismic Cry as well there, sorry. Intimidating and Seismic, I should say, because you're getting more damage from both of them the further you are through your exerted attacks, which is quite nice. And to finish off in our shield, we're using shield charge, faster attacks, and I like to put endurance charge and melee stun in there. Although that's not needed, again, if you do want to be a little bit more ballsy with the tree, you can take out fortitude and go into first strike, last to fall, and then instead have fortify in your shield charge, which, you know, it can work fairly well there as well. So, jumping over here, we're going to start with the Ascendancy. The Ascendancy obviously is Champion, as I've talked about it. You can, once again, I did say at the start, you can go Gladiator into full max block, Violent Retaliation, and Arena Challenger, but then you're going to be changing the tree a little bit, and that's not what this build is focused on. This build is focused on Champion. The best in slot Ascendancy point is Master of Metal. This is giving us, as you can see there, total DPS, including Impale, 52%, which is insane. This is giving us chance to Impale on hits, impales you inflict the last 2 additional hits, granting armor as well when you impale, and flat physical damage for each impale on the enemy, which couples insanely well with Facebreakers. So Master of Metal is just absolutely insane. You need to take this. The other 2 that are pretty much mandatory to take are Unstoppable Hero and Fortitude. Now, some people will argue that Fortitude is not needed, permanent Fortitude uptime, because you can put Fortify on hit on your shield charge, but honestly, all I'm really going to say here is you pretty much want permanent Fortify, because those times that maybe you don't get a shield charge off and your Fortify goes down, especially coupled with all the Fortify strength on the tree here, you can easily get one shot through that as well, so this is really needed. You want to be a little bit more ballsy, have Fortify on your shield charge. You can also take First to Strike, Last to Fall. The other note I do like to take is Inspirational, for the extra movement speed, pretty much, and the banner skill reserving no mana. But once again, you can switch this for First to Strike, Last to Fall, to give you recovering 25% of life when you gain Adrenaline, which means when you get below 35% life, you recover 25%, which brings you all the way back up to 60% life instantly. Very, very, very strong. Basically like a life, an instant life flask, but you don't even have to press it. It's automatic for you. Now, it does have a cooldown, I'm fairly certain. I'm not sure exactly how long that is, but it's really, really good. And the removing of ailments and burning when you gain Adrenaline as well is crazy, crazy strong. So that's pretty much it. That is everything there with the Ascendancy. But we'll just have a look at the passive skill tree itself. Now, it's very, very basic for a Duelist or Marauder type of build that is going Fortify and Impale. Pretty much, we're coming right out of the Duelist start point. We're picking up notables such as Master of Arena and Art of the Gladiator, coming down and hitting Defiance, and then picking up some Warcry stuff. Now, Warcries are very important for this build because, you know, we are looking at all of that kind of stuff. And then we're picking up Measured Fury again for Warcries, Exerted Attacks, and Swift Skewering. And then Golem's Blood, Iron Reflex is very important, and Impaler is very important as well. So it's actually very important for you to go straight out of here, right down into basically Impaler, and then you can save Iron Reflexes for a little bit later while you go up here and pick up a bunch of life and some Warcry nodes and Resolute Technique. You want to be hitting Resolute Technique at around about level 40, so you don't get too much penalty for missing attacks. And that's pretty much it with the passive skill tree. I don't have it at the moment, but I will be including down in the paste bin down below that you can click on a leveling guide. Every 20 points or so, you're going to have, you know, points that you can spec into along the leveling process. Just a little bit further on in the video, pretty much at the end of the video now, there's just going to be a small little leveling guide of what skills you can use during leveling, but it's pretty much, it's just going to be Groundslam. It's just going to be Groundslam the whole time, so definitely jump and check that. The only real things I can say about leveling this character is using Splitting Steel at level 1 is actually a very, very strong skill, and then linked with anything like Onslaught or Chance to Bleed, things like that are really going to help you to level, but then moving to Groundslam once we do farm up our Facebreakers. Now, I will be farming Facebreakers, but I'm going to be putting a leveling guide play with me from Zizaran in the description as well. For the rest of the leveling process, I'm not going to fully talk about it here because honestly, Zizaran knows more about the leveling than me. He is a very accomplished racer himself, so definitely go check it out. It's fairly lengthy, but you're going to learn a lot about this character. So once again, link down in the description for that. And that's the build. That's what I'll be playing in Gauntlet. I think it's going to go quite well. And when I say quite well, I think I'm going to die a lot, lose my Loreweave and Facebreakers multiple times, and rage quit the Gauntlet League. So if you want to come watch me do that, it is twitch.tv/thisisbadgergaming. There is a link down below. And I would also like to quickly say a massive thank you to all of my patrons over at Patreon. You can see their names just over there. Yeah, if you want to be on that list as well, or just want to help me out financially at all, you can definitely go join there in the description below. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Remember to hit that subscribe button like every single YouTuber on the face of the planet who wants to grow in subscribers is telling you to do. And that ding-a-ling-a-ling bell as well is a pretty important one to give a little tickle to. So yeah, remember to always be your best self inside of Path of Exile and outside of it. If you want to come play in the Gauntlet, I think it's fully full now, but you can definitely come watch as well. And if you are participating in the Gauntlet, may you do much better than I am going to do. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and until next time, Badger is out.